Imagine a world without art, a world of stark necessity. Survival was everything. Finding food, staying warm, avoiding predators, that was the daily rhythm of life. We picture our early ancestors as nothing more than hunters and gatherers, a people defined by their struggle against the elements. But deep within the earth, in the quiet, absolute darkness of caves, something extraordinary was happening. Our ancestors weren't just living, they were creating. They were leaving their mark, not just a handprint on a cave wall, but a masterpiece. These aren't random scribbles. They're intricate, detailed, and full of life. Breathtakingly lifelike bison, galloping horses, and fierce predators, all painted by the light of a flickering flame. It was an act of profound human expression, a moment when we transcended mere survival and began to tell stories, to capture beauty, to define ourselves. For decades, many people refused to believe it. How could people from the Ice Age, with their simple tools and nomadic lives, create such sophisticated art? They were dismissed as forgeries, a hoax designed to fool the world. But the proof was there, etched into the ancient rock, preserved for us to discover. It was the first chapter in a grand story, a story that proves creativity isn't just a modern invention. It is, and always has been, at the very heart of who we are. Our journey to the past begins in a quiet corner of France, in the Dordogne region. Here in 1940, 4 teenagers stumbled upon a hole left by a fallen tree. They squeezed their way in, following their dog, Robot, and what they found was a gallery unlike any other on Earth. They had discovered the Lascaux cave, a magnificent time capsule sealed for 17,000 years. As you step into the Great Hall of Bulls, the scale of the work is overwhelming. It's like walking into a massive, prehistoric cathedral. The walls and ceilings are covered in over 600 paintings and nearly 1,500 engravings. The centerpiece? The great bulls. But they're not just bulls. They are towering figures, up to 17 feet long, with a dynamic energy that makes them feel like they could stampede off the wall at any moment. Look at the details. The artists used perspective, a technique we associate with the Renaissance, to show animals from different angles. Notice the way the artists used the contours of the cave wall to give the animals a three-dimensional quality. They even created a feeling of movement. It's like they were painting a movie, capturing an action sequence on stone. But Lascaux isn't just about the bulls. We see stags, horses, and even abstract symbols that we still don't fully understand. Why did they create this? Some say it was a form of hunting magic, a ritual to ensure a successful hunt. Others believe it was a visual record of their daily lives, a way to pass down knowledge. Whatever the reason, it was a profound act of creation. Now, we travel to the Ardèche Valley, also in France, to a cave that rewrote the history of art, Chauvet. Discovered in 1994, this cave was a shock to the scientific world. Its paintings were unlike anything we had seen. They were incredibly old, dating back 32,000 years, making them twice as old as Lascaux. Walking through Chauvet is a different experience entirely. It feels more sacred, more untouched, and the art itself is hauntingly realistic. The artists here weren't just drawing, they were masters of light and shadow. They used charcoal to create depth and volume, a technique we call chiaroscuro. Look at the shadows on the necks and flanks of the lions and mammoths. You can almost feel their presence in the dark. The animals here are different too. Instead of the usual prey animals found in other caves, Chauvet is filled with the big, dangerous predators of the Ice Age: cave bears, lions, and woolly rhinos. In one breathtaking scene, a group of lions seems to be stalking a herd of bison. The composition is flawless, a dramatic narrative unfolding on the cave wall. But what makes Chauvet truly unique are the multiple animal figures painted one on top of the other, creating the illusion of movement. It's an early form of animation. This isn't just art, it's an immersive experience. It's a window into the mind of a human being from a world we can barely comprehend. Our final stop takes us to Spain, to the cave of Altamira. Discovered in 1879, its art was so stunningly advanced that it was initially dismissed as a fake. Scientists of the day believed that our ancestors were too primitive to create such sophisticated works. For almost 40 years, the discoverer, Marcelino Sanz de Sautuola, was ridiculed. It was only after similar discoveries were made in France that the world finally recognized Altamira's genius. And it is genius. The most famous part of the cave is the polychrome ceiling, often called the Sistine Chapel of Paleolithic art. The ceiling is covered with more than 20 bison in different poses, sleeping, standing, and running. The artist used the natural bumps and contours of the cave's ceiling to give the bison a sense of three-dimensional form, making them appear to leap and breathe. It's an incredible use of the natural environment as part of the artwork itself. The colors are rich and vibrant, deep reds, ochres, and blacks. They were made by grinding up minerals, and the painters were meticulous in their work. They even used different colored clays to create shading. Altamira reminds us that this wasn't just a fleeting impulse. It was a skill, an art form passed down through generations. These were not primitive people. They were artists, visionaries, and storytellers who used the tools they had to create something that would last for millennia. You've seen the masterpieces, the lifelike bison, the galloping horses, the shadowy lions, but how did they create these images in the total darkness of a cave? What we're looking at isn't just art, it's a testament to human ingenuity. The first step was finding their palette. These artists were chemistry pioneers. They didn't have tubes of paint. They had to invent their colors from the world around them. The vibrant reds and yellows came from ochre, a type of clay rich in iron oxide, found in abundance in many regions. The deep blacks came from manganese dioxide, a mineral, or simply from charcoal, the burnt remains of wood. To get white, they used kaolin clay. But how did they turn these raw materials into paint? They ground the pigments into a fine powder using stone mortars and pestles. Then, they needed a binder, something to hold the color together and make it stick to the cave walls. The binders were likely natural materials like animal fat, bone marrow, or even saliva. Imagine the process, painstakingly collecting the minerals, grinding them, mixing them with a binder, and finally applying the color. And how did they apply it? For the broad, sweeping strokes, they might have used their hands, moss, or pieces of fur. For finer lines, they used pointed sticks, or even carved bones. In some caves, scientists have found evidence of artists using their mouths to spray the pigment onto the wall, creating a stencil effect around their hands. This wasn't just a simple act of drawing. It was a complex process of resourcefulness and skill. But there's a more fundamental question. How could they see? These masterpieces were created in the deepest, most remote parts of the caves, in pitch-black darkness. This wasn't just about art, it was about engineering. Archaeologists have found evidence of simple but brilliant inventions. Stone lamps. These were hollowed-out stones or carved pieces of rock that served as a vessel. They would fill the vessel with animal fat, a clean-burning fuel, and use a wick, perhaps made of moss or twisted plant fibers. These lamps provided just enough light for the artist to work, casting eerie, dancing shadows that must have made the cave walls come alive. The light from a single lamp would have been enough for one artist, but for a large mural, they would have needed multiple lamps. And how did they reach the high ceilings? In caves like Lascaux, some of the most impressive paintings are 10 or 12 feet off the ground. These artists had to build simple scaffolding. We found holes in the walls of some caves that suggest wooden poles were used to create platforms. This wasn't just an act of passion. It was a collaborative effort that required planning, teamwork, and an incredible amount of effort. For all we know about the how, the biggest question remains the why. What was the purpose of this art? We can only theorize, but each theory paints a fascinating picture of the human mind. Perhaps it was a form of ritual or magic. The paintings often depict hunting scenes, so some believe the artists were trying to gain power over the animals they hunted. By capturing the image of the bison or the mammoth on the wall, they hoped to ensure a successful hunt in the real world. Or maybe it was a way of storytelling. With no written language, these paintings could have been a way to pass down knowledge from one generation to the next. The paintings could have been a way to teach young hunters about animal behavior, or to share the stories of their people. They were a visual encyclopedia of their world. Some scholars suggest the caves were sacred spaces, sanctuaries where shamans would enter a trance-like state. The eerie darkness, the echoing sounds, and the flickering light from the lamps could have created a powerful spiritual experience. The art, then, would be a record of their visions, a bridge between the physical and the spiritual world. Whatever the reason, this art proves that our ancestors were more than just survivors. They had a complex inner life. They had fears, beliefs, and a desire to connect with something larger than themselves. They were artists, engineers, and visionaries. They left us a legacy that transcends time, a legacy of creativity that began in the dark and has been illuminating our world ever since. So far, our journey has taken us to the great caves of Europe. It's easy to think of cave art as a European phenomenon, but the story of human creativity is a global one, and it begins far earlier and in a different place entirely. It begins in the cradle of humanity, Africa. Our journey now takes us to a small cave in South Africa, called Blombos Cave. Here, archaeologists found something that completely changed our understanding of human thought. They didn't find a painting of an animal or a hunting scene. They found a small piece of ochre, a reddish clay, etched with a series of cross-hatched lines. This simple design, dated to around 73,000 years ago, is considered by many to be the oldest known drawing on Earth. This wasn't just a random scratch. It was a deliberate geometric pattern. It shows that our ancestors in Africa were capable of abstract thought and symbolic representation tens of thousands of years before the great caves of Europe were ever painted. It's the first known example of a human being saying this line means something. This pattern is a symbol. It was the very first step toward language, toward mathematics, toward everything that makes us human. It's not a painting, but it's arguably the most important drawing ever made. Now, let's travel thousands of miles to another part of the world, to the island of Sulawesi in Indonesia. For a long time, the oldest known figurative art, paintings of animals and people, was thought to be in Europe. But in 2014, a groundbreaking discovery changed everything. In a remote cave in Sulawesi, scientists found a series of paintings, including a human hand stencil and a painting of a pig. Using modern dating techniques, they determined that these paintings were at least 45,500 years old. This makes them the oldest known figurative art in the world. What does this tell us? It proves that the impulse to create, to represent the world around us, wasn't something that started in one place and spread. It was a shared, universal human trait. At the same time, our ancestors in Europe were creating their first artworks. Others, on the opposite side of the planet, were doing the exact same thing, independently. The art in Sulawesi is just as powerful. The hand stencils are particularly moving. It's an artist's signature, a moment of personal connection across time. When you see that handprint, you're looking at a tangible link to a person who lived tens of thousands of years ago. It reminds us that our story is a single, interconnected one, written on canvases scattered across the globe. Our final stop is a place where the art of the past is also the art of the present. We travel to Australia, a continent with the longest continuous artistic tradition on Earth. Aboriginal rock art, with some of its oldest pieces dating back over 28,000 years, isn't just a historical record, it's a living part of a vibrant culture. Unlike the cave art of Europe, which ceased to be made thousands of years ago, Aboriginal rock art has been continuously created for millennia. It's a testament to the enduring power of culture and tradition. The art tells the stories of the Dreamtime, a complex spiritual system that explains the creation of the world. It shows the journeys of ancestral beings, the laws of the land, and the relationships between all living things. What's truly unique about Australian rock art is its connection to the land itself. The art and the landscape are inseparable. The stories told on the rock walls are mirrored in the geography around them. This is not just art on a wall, it's a map of their spiritual and physical world. The art we've seen today, From the abstract markings of Blombos to the realistic animals of Sulawesi and the timeless stories of the Dreamtime, tells a profound story about us. It tells us that from our very beginnings, we were not just survivors. We were storytellers, symbol makers, and dreamers. And in the echoes of their art, we can hear the echoes of our own creativity, connecting us all across continents and across time. We've journeyed across the globe, from the dark caves of France to the arid landscapes of Africa and Australia. We've seen the masterful ancient works of Lascaux and Chauvet, the symbolic etchings of Blombos, and the timeless, living stories of the Dreamtime. These artworks, created by people on different continents at different points in time, reveal something profound about us all. Art is not a modern invention. It is fundamental to who we are. From the very beginning, humans have had a primal urge to create. It wasn't about survival. You don't need a beautiful painting on your wall to find food. So why did we do it? Because we are storytellers. We want to share our experiences, our fears, and our dreams. We want to capture what we see and what we feel. Think about it. From a handprint on a cave wall 45,000 years ago to a modern city mural, the basic impulse is the same: to leave your mark on the world, to communicate without words, and to connect. It's proof that what makes us human is an instinct that has been with us since we first lived in caves. This extraordinary legacy, however, is now facing grave threats. Time is not its only enemy. We are too. In the 1960s, after Lascaux was opened to the public, the sheer volume of visitors, and even the carbon dioxide from their breath, caused mold and algae to grow on the paintings. These ancient masterpieces began to deteriorate. As a result, the cave had to be closed to the public. To protect our heritage, scientists and preservationists have come up with creative solutions. They've made perfect replicas, meticulously recreating every curve and detail of the caves so we can experience them without damaging the originals. This serves as a powerful reminder of how fragile these sites are. They are part of our collective human story, and it's our responsibility to protect them for future generations. Our adventure doesn't end here. Every year, archaeologists find new clues, new caves, and new artwork. Modern technology like drones and ground-penetrating radar is helping us discover things that have been hidden for thousands of years. Who knows what masterpieces still lie deep beneath the earth, waiting to tell their story? These discoveries don't just fill in the gaps in history, they reshape it, giving us an increasingly rich and detailed picture of who we once were. This journey shows us that inside every human heart is an artist. No matter where we live or who we are, we have an instinct to tell our story. And those ancient paintings aren't just remnants of the past. They are a powerful reminder that the human creative spirit is a flame that has never gone out, a flame that has lit our path from the dawn of humanity to this very day.